The Mongolian economy has structurally changed in the past 2 decades. With a wealth of untapped mineral resources, mining has become a priority sector within Mongolia. So pervasive has mining become that words such as ninja, a colloquial term of reference for small-scale and artisanal miners, have entered the national vocabulary and are understood by most Mongolians. As large-scale mining continues on its rapid trajectory of development, so too does the small-scale mining sector.
хэд ирээдүйн асуудалж чухлаар тавигдж байна.
A country rich in mineral resources that embarks on a course of mining-related economic development inevitably must face the issue of artisanal mining. In Mongolia, artisanal mining emerged in the initial post-transition years of the early 1990s. With the closure of state factories and widespread unemployment in both rural and urban areas, many people were forced to look for alternative ways to generate income. Studies estimate that about 100,000 people are now artisanal or ninja miners. In our country, there is an unofficial mining subsector comprised of people commonly referred to as ninjas, but more officially known as small-scale or artisanal miners. Why do we have this sector? In many countries of the world, not only in Mongolia, this is related to socioeconomic conditions, the level of economic development, the employment situation, rates of poverty, and proximity and access to natural resources. No country has been successful in resolving this issue through administrative means, and it isn't likely that there will ever be any success via these procedures in the future. What is proving successful is when governments take action to regulate artisanal and small-scale mining and work towards its formalization with the aim of making it an unofficial sub-sector. Artisanal mining is having both positive and negative impacts within Mongolian society. There have been many articles published and programs discussed about the damage and harm caused by unregulated and uncontrolled artisanal mining, including environmental problems and the polluting of water and pasture land. In addition, the miners themselves do not pay taxes and have negative impact on the rights of people in local communities, herders, and mining companies. There has also been an increase in crime rates and social disorder, breaches of human rights, and increased use of toxic chemicals, and additional burdens on local governments and associated budgetary difficulties. Unofficial data showed that there were about 100,000 people working as artisanal miners. The broadened scope of small-scale mining, the increasing number of people involved, and the growing number of territories involved has made it necessary to promote the positive impacts of these activities and to reduce their adverse impact via relevant state policies. In relation to this, in 2002, a temporary regulation on mineral extraction by non-industry methods was adopted. In 2008, the government adopted a sub-program for development of small-scale mining up to 2015 and a temporary regulation on artisanal mining operations. In order to address the critical issues with a legal framework, in July 2010, the Mongolian parliament adopted amendments laws to the minerals law. to the law on land and related tax law. These moves have helped to encourage the formalization of artisanal and small-scale mining sector and promote it as an official and socially responsible subsector. For example, following the implementation of the relevant legislation, 22 artisanal and small-scale mining non-governmental organizations and 554 unregistered partnerships were established, involving more than 5,000 people. These groups are working hard to ensure that all their members are employed and have stable incomes. Of particular importance, about 50% of the organized small-scale miners have now taken out health and social insurance. Our Dushmandal NGO started its activities in 2008, and to date we have more than 120 members in 20 partnerships. These people are currently working in the mining lands. In Narsum, there are also two other NGOs, Batır Vanghishig and Hirch Bayın Hayrhan, which include from 8 to 15 partnerships. By organizing into partnerships, these people became responsible to a certain extent, and we now have them sign occupational health and safety guidelines before they start mining in the field. They are also able to sustain a certain amount of monthly income and have been able to save money. The Sustainable Artisanal Mining Project of the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation has conducted a series of trainings for small-scale miners aimed at improving miners' legal knowledge, artisanal and small-scale mining legislation, in occupational health and safety in 57 SOMs of 11 AMEGs and in one city district. They have built miners' capacity through these activities, and as a result, the number of accidents at mine sites has significantly dropped. Mercury-free processing plants were also established in Mandalsum, Sylling AMEG, Bayıngovasum, Bayınhongra AMEG, and Bornorsum, Tuve AMEG, with a capacity to process a total of $9 million of gold annually. As miners have begun to work within the established legal framework and adopt responsible mining practices, 147 million Tugruks Rehabilitation Fund was created and 43.7 hectares of land has to date been rehabilitated. Certain results have been achieved. The most difficult thing is the land issue. The legislative stipulation permits that in only 3 cases can artisanal and small-scale miners work. Firstly, in small deposits, which are not economically viable for larger-scale mining. Secondly, in already exploited deposits that have been abandoned and left as a waste. And thirdly, in the event that a company and local authority have mutually agreed to allow artisanal and small-scale miners to work. We have worked within 2 directions. To have artisanal and small-scale miners work in already exploited deposits where the mine owners have left. To reach agreements with companies. Initially, we have came to an agreement with the Jump Company in Jarlansum and talked about allowing up to 300 artisanal and small-scale miners to work in that area. As a first step, in 2010, we agreed that small-scale miners would work on a 1.3 hectares of land with about 13 kilograms of resources. The following year, it was agreed that 2.6 hectares of land with 20 kilograms of gold resources would be allotted to small-scale miners. The most critical artisanal and small-scale mining issues raised on those areas and within local communities are still ongoing. Conflict exists between local governments, citizens, and small-scale miners. However, there are a number of examples which demonstrate that if those parties are able to discuss the issues within the legal framework and can ensure mutually beneficial cooperation, they are able to achieve many positive outcomes. The Инхмук Иргэх холбоо, NGO in Замарсум, Tuva аймаг, in conjunction with the Mining National Operator Company and the local government, has signed a tripartite agreement that created stable workplaces for 50 people. The Special Mines and Altındornot Mongol companies also undertook such an agreement with small-scale miners in the areas in which it works, creating safe workplaces. Compared with the situation in the past, the conditions for artisanal and small-scale mining are on the right track, with laws and regulations formalizing small-scale mining as an official subsector engaged in responsible mining practices. This tangibly contributes to less disorderly and uncontrolled conditions and helps encourage miners to become more organized and to operate in a more orderly manner. Mongolia can now estimate how many small-scale miners are working and where, and can determine how many are organized. However, progress is still needed to improve these outcomes. Since we have people engaged in small-scale mining, we need to allow their activities within the relevant legislation. We are therefore seriously focusing on such issues as how to enable a more appropriate legal environment and how to continue developing the legal framework which has a certain extent been established without dismantling or dissolving it. For instance, we impose a certain level of taxation on small-scale miners to contribute to state revenue in accordance with the law on personal income derived from private businesses and services on those whose income it is not possible to define. The current legislation stipulates that 53,000 tugrux in taxes per month shall be paid by small-scale miners who are engaged in private businesses. We have to access and reconsider whether this 53,000 tugrux tax per month is a realistic figure. The new reform government, formed after 2012 parliamentary elections, has set an ambitious objective of creating 150,000 new jobs. There is definite potential to realize this objective through the proper regulation of those engaged in artisanal and small-scale mining. Today, of course, there have been certain results achieved. However, there are still many issues to be resolved. First of all, many people are losing their lives and damaging their health by working in artisanal and small-scale mining. This is the most serious issue, and we will be seriously focusing on it. We need to develop awareness-raising campaigns and activities for people who want to work in artisanal and small-scale mining and ensure they have adequate legal knowledge and are able to work in appropriate occupational health and safety conditions, and be ready to provide assistance to others. These are the most needed activities. Therefore, we think we need to cooperate with local governments and help improve their knowledge in this regard, and also encourage them to have the right attitude towards this issue, and to ensure that there are proper accountability mechanisms, that they are taking responsibility. We need to cooperate on this issue. Artisanal and small-scale miners are viewed negatively by the public and are often subject to maltreatment and discrimination. Historically, in those countries with the large artisanal and small-scale mining sector, attempts to resolve issues with force have elicited negative results. The experiences of countries successful in developing their mining sectors demonstrate that if the state takes control of the issue and properly organizes and formalizes artisanal and small-scale mining, the sector can be one of the gateways to development. Mongolia, with such a vast mineral resources and such a large territory. And for this, your right policy and right management and right cooperation are the most significant.